Okay, we should probably start now. Welcome everybody. I am Piercesare Secchi. I am a statistician at the Department of Mathematics of Politecnico di Milano, and I will chair this session on our world. So our first speaker is Joseph Rickert, who presumably many of you know as the R community ambassador. So Joseph will talk about the R Consortium 2020. Please, Joseph, join us and start your talk.
So I'm not sharing.
Hi, Joseph.
I'm not sure how to share the screen.
Not yet.
How do I share my slides?
I think you should probably use the screen button at the bottom of your window. Okay, we can see them now.
Excellent.
Now maybe we should go out and okay.
So you can all see my slides.
Yeah, we can. They're kind of small, but I can see them.
All right.
Double click on the slide to maximize. Thank you.
Yes,
okay,
I have maximized.
We can see your slide perfectly now. Okay, you can go ahead.
Excellent. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here, and a little disappointed that I cannot be in Milano with you all personally, but we're doing the best we can in these times. And I'd like to tell you a little bit today about how the R Consortium is trying to adapt. So first off, the consortium, we are a nonprofit organization. Our mission in life is to promote the R language and support the R community. You can see the current members now. And like everybody else, adapting in these times means continuing to do some things that are still meaningful and doing them well, and looking for opportunities to do new things that are relevant and meaningful in response to the circumstances. So first off, I want to point out that Our Ladies is doing a superb job of carrying on and doing extraordinary work in promoting R around the world. I mean, for Our Ladies spans continents and cultures, and you can see the sun never sets on Our Ladies. They're very accepting and some of the best ambassadors that the R community could have. And they were very, very quick to adapt to the online environment. So one of the things they did right away was to make arrangements where they can share their Zoom account among members. So, and it's possible by sharing their signing up on their calendar to have a professional level, event or working study group. Without much preparation. So we're very pleased to be able to have Our Ladies continue this kind of work. The RUGS program is a little slower to catch up, but we are continuing to support conferences. There are a number of remote conferences that are happening this year. And so far we've given grants to 15 of them. We've awarded about $36,000 so far this year in user group and conference grants, and I'd like to award more. So, if you have the opportunity to do a remote event, please think about us to help you get started. And we're also working to try to get the a way to share a Zoom account. Now, our hub, I don't know how many of you have visited it recently, but our hub, which is the flagship project for the R Consortium, it's what we started with. It has practically reinvented itself over the past year in terms of its documentation and its look and feel. If you're a package builder and you want to do some testing on systems that you don't have, platforms that are not available to you, and if you want to learn more about testing and details of the kinds of challenges you may face, please visit the blog that I have down there on the link. You'll see a number of blog posts that go into great detail and contribute to a substantial body of knowledge about R packages. The R Validation Hub is really going quite nicely this year. So what they're about is to facilitate the use of R in the biopharmaceutical industry. And of course, you have a regulated environment, and they're concentrating first off on assessing package risk. So many R packages do not have the kinds of documentation that the FDA or regulatory group might want to see. And what the Validation Hub group is going about doing is backfilling all of that kind of information or enabling people to generate it on their own through a architecture that concentrates on evaluating the risk of packages. So already now they have a white paper, they have a risk metrics package, and they have a prototype app that I encourage you to visit. So this is the kind of thing that for the pharmaceutical industry, it is perfect for getting started in using R in a submission process. And if you're in another industry, financial or another industry where you face regulation, you might look at this as a prototype or model for how to move forward with the kinds of challenges that you face. Here's an example. Here's the workflow from the working paper. So you can see what they've done is divide risk into these 4 kinds of categories: the purpose, the maintenance of the package, how well it's being maintained, how it's being used by the community, how it's testing. And all these things are designed to give you a risk score that you can customize. The next steps for the group, what they'll be working on this year, is to build out the rest of this architecture you see. So to build out the testing framework. Now, this is something totally new. In cooperation with the Stanford Data Science Group, the R Consortium is helping to support what's called the COVID-19 Data Forum. So this is an effort to address the data problems and issues that that this pandemic faces, challenges us with. And it's not only a matter of finding the data, but what data needs to be generated. What kind of data exists, what needs to be created, and what are the issues related to sharing the data, to ensuring privacy, to making sure that the data is accessible in a way to all groups working around the world, and that the kinds of data harmonization that need to be achieved can support decision makers. So this is all about data. What we've done is hold one event so far. There is on the web, you can watch the video. It was a webinar of 4 speakers approaching the data problem from different perspectives with different kinds of experiences. So you see Allison Hill talked as an epidemiologist with Ryan Hafen, whom you may know, visualizing big data, or in Aidan from the perspective of spatial data, and Noam Ross, genomic data. And of course, Noam has been very active in setting standards for reproducibility and how packages should be written in order to facilitate scientific research. So this was a successful first event. We're planning another one in July, and I encourage you to look into it if you are involved or know someone who's involved in the kinds of very difficult issues in developing either models or forecasting systems for this pandemic. So these are just some of the kinds of questions that came up in a discussion forum that was a second event that we held. It was a small event with a panel of experts, and it was all over the place. You can see we have use of data, types of data, the issues. Particularly vexing is the fact that almost in all healthcare systems around the world, the data is owned at a very fine, low level. In the United States, the data is owned by individual hospitals. Data is reported at the county level. And this is similar to what happens across the world. And making these things standardized to work together in a seamless manner is a big job. And what you see, when you look at some of the dashboards, are work in progress, because data is collected and then it is validated and updated, and it may not be updated the same way everywhere. So people who are dealing with these issues are making a heroic effort, and we need to do all that we can to support them. We had our first funding round in last month, which just closed. We actually funded 7 projects for a total of $105,000. I'm just mentioning one of them here. It's the Recon COVID-19 Challenge. Recon, it stands for the R Epidemiology Consortium. And they're a professional group of scientists, epidemiologists, statisticians who have been tackling viral outbreaks around the world for a number of years. You can go to their website and see some of the state-of-the-art packages that they have written. In fact, the SEER models and that you see in many of the dashboards that are being used were developed were based on packages written by this group. And we have funded them to try to put together an online resource so that they can coordinate activities with other researchers. Please go to the Read More link if you are interested. You'll also see there that there are a couple positions opened to help. So they have some of the grant money they're using to fund positions for building out this system. So please take a look at that. And in the same vein as this conference, virtual, maybe not as pleasant as seeing your colleagues in person, but in some ways better. I'm been very impressed with this conference and the pioneering use of the technologies and how things seem to be going. And I hope that we can do the same in these 2 R Consortium conferences that will be held later this year. R Medicine, it will be the 3rd year, concentrating on the use of R in clinical applications. And then the R Pharma conference is preparing again. This is a big group. They had a meeting today, I think it was, with 43 people on the organizing committee. A lot of energy, very excited, and I expect to see more activity from the pharmaceutical companies as the summer progresses. So if you work for a company that uses R in any substantial way, please think about asking the powers that be if they could possibly become a member of the consortium. You know, what we need is strength in numbers in order to expand the amount of grants that we can give and the support we can give to conferences and individuals and projects around the world. So this is good work, and we hope that we can have more people support it. In fact, this is a recent ad that appeared for Merck, a member of the consortium. And I especially like the last line. It might be hard to read the bullet list there, but it says the duties of this position, which is associate principal scientist, statistical programmer, includes representing their company in groups like the R Consortium. So with that, I'll leave you. And thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Joseph. Perfectly in time, and thank you for your interesting and plenty of links and groups to join. There will be time for question and answer later on. So I think, although we are maybe a minute or so ahead, I think we can now move to Regina Seegers. Regina is a coordinator of CorrelAidX. She's a social data scientist, but working also at Bamberg University. But she's today here as coordinator of CorrelAidX, which is also the topic of her talk. So please, Regina, have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, hi. Let me just share my slides. Oh my gosh, okay. Let's see.
Yeah.
Can you see the slides? Okay.
Yeah, we can.
Perfect. So, and I think, let me turn out my camera so you can see better. Okay, so my name is Regina. I am a survey statistician by training at the University of Bamberg, and in my free time, I'm volunteering for CorrelAid as a core team member. And if you want to reach out after the session, you can reach me at Twitter, at Regusch, or in the e-Rum Slack, or via mail. You can find all the info at our website. So what I want to talk about today is something that maybe seems kind of counter-cyclical right now, especially after hearing about the great work of the R Consortium on going remote in the last couple of weeks, since I'm going to talk about our organization going from a completely remote setup to the local level, where we started local chapters all across Germany, while starting out as an organization that solely started on a remote level, organized on Slack and through telephone conferences. So yeah, maybe that will be a nice outlook for all of us if we have to go or return from our remote setups and are able to meet again in person somewhere, somehow. So yeah, maybe that's nice. Okay, first of all, what's CorrelAid? We kind of started out as a bunch of data enthusiasts, mainly with a social science background about 4 years ago. And we all wanted to apply the skills that we learned mainly at university somewhere for a good cause. So we wanted to do something good with the things that we learned before. And we wanted to make all those skills accessible to organizations with a social mission who otherwise wouldn't have the manpower or financial resources to carry out data science projects on their own. So we kind of wanted to make data science as it is with a normal potential accessible to other organizations who do good. And the idea kind of resonated actually with a lot of people. So now we grew into a network of over 1,500 data scientists all across Germany and even in some other countries now as well in Europe, who are passionate about doing data science for good and helping other social organizations improve their work through data science. Okay, now how do we do that? So CorrelAid is pretty much based on 3 different pillars. And the first and arguably most important work that we do are those data science projects that we carry out with different organizations. So normally we would try to find out with organizations where their challenges are and how we can solve those challenges with different data analysis or data science techniques. And when we have such a project, we will kind of spread it to a network and we build small groups of maybe 3 to 10 people who work on that project and to actually help these organizations in the following couple of months to improve their work. Next to that, we also think that it is important to just spread the word pretty much in the civil society about the potential of data analysis. So a lot of our work is also going to conferences and talking to different organizations, even if there's not a project getting out of it, just about the potential that they will have by applying data science in their work, and to make them realize that it's not only for big companies, but that everyone can benefit from it. So, for example, we offer consultation hours in the last couple of weeks where we supported them in going remote, or we want to create awareness by reporting about our projects and experiences. And the last part, and especially in the R community, one of the greatest parts is the community aspect, because with so many people who are enthusiastic about data science and about doing something good together, you can imagine that it's quite a group coming together. So yeah, we wanted to connect all those people who have the same idea and the same mission, and provide them with a platform where they can apply and expand their knowledge, and where we can learn from each other. So, for example, we have a help Slack channel where we support each other if we have problems in coding, or we do workshops across Germany or remotely, where we talk about our experiences with different packages, or how we solve different problems. So yeah, that's really nice. And also we have a podcast and a blog if you want to take a look at that. Let's also take a quick look about our network and data, since I thought that would be kind of appropriate in this context. So right now we are about 25 volunteers in our core team. So those are the people that kind of keeps the organization running, especially with our now 3 full-time employees in Berlin, who just started this year. Before we were all volunteer-based, but now we actually have people who can put in the time and work for CorrelAid full-time, which is really great. And so far we managed to have over 30 projects with different MPOs, where we also mainly used R as our favorite programming language overall, especially in the network. And we had over 50 workshops, some of them remote, but most of them in person at different meetups, etc. So yeah, that's pretty much our work in numbers. But we ask ourselves where to go from there, because it all worked quite well, but we asked us how can we do better, and especially how can we do more, because there's never too much of a good thing, I guess. So we realized that one of our main challenges is how to reach different organizations, because especially in the social sector, many of those organizations who do good and to want to do something for society operate on a local level. And for especially those small organizations, it sometimes is quite hard to reach out to a German-wide consortium like CorrelAid and ask them for help, because sometimes they don't even know where their challenges are or that they can do something about it with data science. So one of the main parts is how to reach those small organizations and how to do good on a local level. And also we have data scientists all across Germany, not only on those big cities and hubs like Berlin, where there are like so many data-related meetups and communities, but not everyone wants to go there. So sometimes you have all those people who are very skilled and who don't really have an opportunity to put that to work in the region where they actually live. And so, yeah, we wanted to just combine those two potentials. So we wanted to find good matches of local organizations who do good on a local level, and those data scientists who live just nearby but never really get to get in touch with those. So it's kind of a supply and demand problem. So and also we found out that some things that work in one context don't necessarily work in another. So we also had the opportunity to do projects or workshops or meetups that are kind of based on the region where we do them. So yeah, as you can finally figured out as of now, our approach was to do what we already do on a German-wide level and put that on the local level. So yeah, we created CorrelAidX, which with the support of the Stiftung Bürgermut, just a small shout out, because they helped us tremendously in getting what we already do on a German-wide level to the local level. And now we have about 11 local chapters all across Germany, but also in the Netherlands and Paris as well, where we mainly mirror what we already do on the level of CorrelAid as an organization across Germany, because we figured if it works for us on a national level, why should we just turn it all around and do something completely different? So yeah, as you can see, we also have those three pillars, but now with the workshops and events, it's possible to actually meet more regularly. And so we have mainly R-based workshops and data dialogues and other events at the local level, at universities or through Meetup, where people from the same region get together and talk about their data science experiences and the packages that they're using, and just get together and talk for a while, because even if we tend to forget that sometimes, it actually is really nice to meet people in person. And sometimes it was a little bit sad to have this great community of people who are interested in the same things as you, and to actually never be able to get in contact with them apart from like telephone conferences and Slack. So yeah, it's really nice to actually meet those people sometimes in person, even if that's not possible right now. So yeah. Then we also have those community events, and of course the local projects where those local chapters get in contact with organizations who work in their region. This could be a sports organization. So we had one which plays Faustball, which is a really small sports. and Germany or other organizations who are based in their region, and helps them through data projects and sometimes also just consulting. So actually trying to find out where those challenges are and how they can help them with the data science project, because sometimes that's the biggest part of the work, to actually find out where you can do work. I wanted to showcase 2 different formats for you on how we do that on a local level. So maybe you can apply those as well where you are. And the first format that I wanted to show you is the data dialogue, which is a format where the local chapter invites different small organizations for an evening with sometimes pizza as well. And those organizations can either be all from the same sector. So one of our first data dialogues was, for example, on migration, or they could be from many different sectors, but from the same region. And we just bring them together in a room with a bunch of data scientists and pretty much get them to talk to each other, because that's something that's sometimes lacking. And so they can find out together where those challenges are and how they could support each other and how we could apply data science to do something good. Okay. Yeah, and the other thing is the Datentreff, where we actually use the resources, for example, from the R community with the Tidy Tuesday challenges to learn from each other. And this is kind of a more university-based event where those people in our network pretty much learn from each other and try to get better at R, because some people in our network are still learning and others are kind of professionals already. So it's kind of a diverse network. So as a web app, we have those different R communities on a local level, which can help build a community among our users, apart from being remote. We're serving data for good on a local level, and we increase visibility and acknowledgement of data for good among broader parts of society and make organizations realize how they can use data science to do more good. So yeah, if you want to reach us, you can do that on CorrelAid.org, on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever. We're always happy to hear from you.
Okay, thank you very much, Regina, for this interesting talk. I'm pretty sure that people will have questions for you later on. So now it's time for our 2 speakers, Christoph Sax and Kirill Muller. They are both at Syncra, which is a small group of data scientists based in Switzerland. So please, Kirill and Christoph, join us. Okay, I do see Christoph. I don't know. I don't see Kirill at the moment. But I presume he is going to be admitted. Okay, here. Hi, Kirill. So the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Piercesare. Thanks a lot for the great organization. My name is Christoph, and I'm giving this talk together with Kirill. Kirill does the slides, so I hope everything is working. We are going to talk about how we use our consulting experience to contribute to the R universe.
Sorry, Christoph and Kirill, it's probably better if you turn off your video camera so that it will be easier for the recording. Not the screen, but just the video.
Are you sure?
That's the instruction I just received.
Both of us, or just Kirill?
Okay. I'm not sure I can handle that right now.
Okay, go ahead then.
Okay. Yeah. So we gonna see how our contributions to open source, how they ultimately benefit our clients, and yeah, so we gonna see how consulting and open source development mutually benefit each other. So that's the point of the talk. So we are Synchro. We are a Zurich-based data consultancy. We have a very strong focus in R and in open source development. We are a team of 5 data scientists with very different backgrounds. We are physicists, economists, geographers, and computer scientists. And all of us are here at the online conference. So if you want to talk to us, we have a virtual booth. So whenever you're up to, just please drop by anytime. We consult clients from very different areas. They include insurance company, public institutions, industrial companies. And what these clients have in common is that basically that they use R, and we help them to organize their data workflows. We support them with their modeling and with their data communication. We also support our clients with infrastructure problems. So we help them to set up a Studio server or a Shiny server and things like that. So since we have a very strong focus on R, we obviously use all kinds of packages in our work. And in many cases, actually use cases have led to an open source project. And our contributions have helped to improve some existing open source projects. So we are truly enthusiastic about free and open source softwares. And this is like a list of the R packages, which is on our website. We have quite a strong focus on databases. This is one of our core strengths, and Kirill will just give an example of how the DM package was created and out of our consulting work. Then we have Patrick. He is heavily involved in the development of MLR, which is one of the main machine learning frameworks in R. We have a couple of statistical packages too. We have packages on time series. Kirill is also a core contributor to the Tidyverse. So many of you probably will know his work for like the Tibble package. There are other convenience tools. The TV package is something I will present tomorrow in a lightning talk. And yeah, there are some development tools as well. So how are all these things useful for our client work? So how do clients benefit from all these open source projects? So there are various ways how they benefit from that. So first, being an author of an R package, that gives you a lot of domain expertise, obviously. So if you talk to users of a package on a regular basis, that sharpens your understanding of the package focus. But being an author also provides you with a community network. So sometimes we can rely on other authors to help with a specific problem. The last reason here is like most practical. Sometimes while using a package in some practical work, you will encounter a situation where the package does not behave as you want it to be. So there may be a bug or some other kind of unwanted behavior. And being involved in the package authoring process, that just makes it much easier and quicker to respond and to bring some bug fixes or like changes into the package development. So we have seen how customers benefit from open source. Next question is how is it going the other way around? So how is open source benefiting from our consulting work? So obviously consulting generates some money, and that allows us like to pay our bills. But there are many situations where the benefits go beyond that. Working with clients allow you to get to observe like at least one particular user very well. And if you observe a user over a longer period of time, as opposed like to maybe in a workshop where you observe a user for a short period of time only. So this gives you like a ton of insights about what people actually need. So working with clients, that generates invaluable feedback for development. And in a few cases, the feedback actually goes beyond nice words, and customers, they are willing to support the development directly, financially or non-financially. And one example where this was like heavily the case is like the DM package. And so I'm giving the word to Kirill, who talks about that.
Thanks a lot, Christoph. I'd like to go back to the origins of the DM package that's authored by Tobias, who's also Tikra, and myself. If you haven't heard of DM, this package helps with relational data models in R. We have a lightning talk tomorrow morning. Today, I'd like to talk about how an itch that occurred in consulting work led to a great collaboration and, to paraphrase, to a grammar of joint tables. So we were helping a customer build an application that was capable of filtering across multiple tables. That's what it looks like. We wanted to be able to set filters on every table and compute and visualize a set of relevant points for further analysis. These are marked as blue or yellow boxes in the diagram. So we joined every table with every other table. This was like 400 lines of spaghetti code consisting of joins and filters, a big pain to write and to maintain. We thought there must be a better way. In the open source community, we're in a great position. We can rely on a vast amount of freely available code that we can inspect to understand what it does and use and adapt as we see fit. I had used the data modeler package before. This package helps build diagrams for relational data models. Our code uses dplyr, the database version of dplyr, for the joins. What if we combine those? So the initial version of DM was just that. We combined data modeler and dplyr to a data structure we could compute on. We had a code to do the join based on that data structure, and this allowed us to retire our 400 lines of joining code. We also saw the potential of going beyond filtering. We are grateful for the support we received from our customer, Energie360. They contributed to a substantial part of the development of the DM package. This allowed to lay the groundwork for what DM currently is. Well, of course, like many software projects, DM is a hydra where 3 new heads grow for each head chopped off. That's another story. Also, we would like to be talking, we wouldn't be talking about DM today without continuous investments in the R ecosystems by our studio and the R Consortium. In particular, the tidyverse and the database interface, DBI. So we're really standing on the shoulders of giants here. It's a great community to be in. Now, why is this a win-win situation? Christoph mentioned it, I'd like to reiterate. So the customer gets a general purpose solution that's applicable beyond the original problem. This solution is decomposed from company internals, which makes it possible to put it in the wild. The wider adoption gives a better end product with more capabilities than originally planned for. It can be used in other settings different from the original use case. Now, for the community, we get a new package that fills a gap in the R ecosystem, I think. The new development also inspires contributions to existing packages. As consultants, we get a lot of joy from working on open source software and fixing problems at the source instead of relying on workarounds all the time or having to wait for a software update. Most importantly, it helps getting the job done. So what I really like about the setup, it splits up the triangle between customer, product, and consultants that we usually have in other setups. we as consultants and our customers are together part of the same amazing community. Together we can build much greater things than in solitude. And that's it. Thank you.
Meaning that you are done, Kirill?
Thanks, I'm done.
Okay, okay, thank you very much. This was short, but presumably important. So you will receive question and answer later on. So I think that now we can move to Dmytro Perepolkin, who is at Lund University, and we'll talk about web etiquette for our users. So Dmytro, please come to the floor.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Dmytro.
Thank you.
So I will leave it to you. You have still 15 minutes, even though the other speakers were kind of quick. Okay. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Just a sec. Wyключите видео сейчас же.
Dovremmo fare il mai dire
I'm sorry.
We cannot see you.
Yeah, I think he had some technical problems.
Okay. Manuela, we can now see you. So good to have the
Can
other
you hear,
part.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
The part of the organization is here. Thank you, Manuela, for coming.
Yeah, I just noticed that he had some technical problems, so I was.
Okay, so shall we
Uh,
wait a couple of minutes for him?
Yep, we can wait a little bit.
Before moving to
I
the
guess,
question and
yep.
answer? Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
he's on Slack, so.
So good.
Okay, I'll disappear again.
Okay, too bad. So Perepolkin to fix these problems with the connection. Dmytro was supposed to talk about Polite, a package for web etiquette for our users. Oh, here is Dmytro again.
Thank you. I apologize. There's
no problem.
an issue with sharing.
Okay, no problem. So if you are, okay, good. Now I see your slides. Very good. Go ahead, Dmytro. You have 15 minutes.
Awesome. All right. Okay. So we usually talk to our newcomer data scientists about the importance of learning data analysis tools, but we rarely talk about where the data comes from and how data is acquired and what is allowed and what is not allowed in the world of data scraping. Today, I'm going to talk about web etiquette and the package that I wrote some time ago. And it's based on these 4 principles for polite data scraping. Introduce yourself, ask for permissions, take slowly, and never ask twice. I'm going to take one at a time here. So first of all, it's important to introduce yourself. By that, I mean we need to teach users that human readable user agent strings are important because they indicate who you are, what's your intention, why you're doing what you're doing. There's no need to impersonate yourself. There's no need to use rotation or multiple user agent strings as Stack Overflow, some of the answers would suggest. And it's important to disclose that you are using R and that you are machine operated, in the sense that you are using some sort of for loop or something to scrape several pages. So that bot is a usual convention for indicating that. So here's, for example, a example of a bad user agent string because it's not true. You're not operating iPad. And the other one is a good one because it gives a name and it gives where to find you and what you're doing. Let's have a look at that, a link at the end to find out how user agent strings came out to be. Next one is important to ask for permissions. With the host, with the websites, you don't really have a privilege of talking to the owner, but you can check robots.txt, which basically regulates who gets to scrape where, what is allowed, what is not allowed. This Latin saying that I have on the slide is roughly translated to modern language as what is allowed to Internet Explorer is not necessarily allowed to Beautiful Soup. And that means that you need to check which parts of the website are accessible for machine scraping. You don't need to assume anything. Use robots.txt, spiderbar, both of them are reading robots.txt file, and then you will find out what is allowed, what is not allowed. Here's an example of a probably bad attempt to scrape. Take the Google search page and start reading it right away. The better approach is to first check if the path is allowed, and in the case of Google search string, it's not allowed. Okay, next one is about taking slowly. So when you are accessing website, it's actually good to go very slow, and there's an advantage of R being relatively slow because you don't overwhelm the host. There's no need to employ any parallelization. I've seen packages that do basically parallel scraping. It's not a good idea. Set a reasonable rate. Most of the websites will require under 1 request per second, but the lower you go, or basically the higher delay you have, the better. There's a rate limiter package that I'm using, and there's also a new adverb and per called slowly. Both of them will help you a lot in achieving and setting reasonable scraping rate. So the first example is bad because it goes too fast, and the other one where you wrap your scraping function into an adverb is a much better approach, achieving rate limited function, and then you can apply it because it will go as much as you limit it. Okay, next one is about never asking twice. And what I mean by that is that hosts don't like when you talk to them several times about the same thing. You don't want to repeat yourself, your requests. You need to write down whatever you get from the host, and therefore Memoiz, for example, is a package that allows you to cache all the results, all the answers from the host into a memory, or better to disk. Also, you need to expect queries to fail. Sometimes the website does not respond or does not return what you expect it to return, and therefore it's important to write down whatever you receive. RDS is a very flexible format for caching all the results. It requires a little bit more code maybe to take care of it, but it really pays off. So here's an example of a kind of careless scraping, and another one that is wrapped into Memoiz, which is also an adverb, and it makes a much more reliable and basically robust scraping function, because next time you query with the same attributes or with the same arguments in the function, it will be retrieved from cache, not from the website. So here's a package that I wanted to introduce. It's called Polite. It has two functions, bow and scrape. Bow introduces a section, initiates the session, introduces the client to the host, basically using customized user agent string. It checks robots.txt for you, and then whenever you need to change the URL, you do the quick nod and move on to the next URL. And scrape is a wrapper over HTTR get, which is basically a rate limited and memoized version of the same thing. And there's also a polite download function called rip, which you can use for downloading files. It does also the same rate limitation and memoization. It's not only a polite etiquette, it's not only like the medieval gesture, but it's just a habit of behaving as an adult on the web. The website here indicates where you can find more documentation and also installing it from CRAN. So here's an example how to use polite. In this case, I'm accessing the cheese.com website, which is a collection of all cheeses of the world. You bow to the host, basically indicating the URL that you want to scrape from. Behind the scenes, it does validation of robots.txt, and then the scrape is taking the session as an argument and then querying it where necessary with the parameters, returning HTML file as you need it. So that's basically all there is. But usually, and the topic of my talk today is about this chef view. So user would say, well, I have my own code. Do I have to use polite? So we need to accommodate those requests. So I'm shifting the gears a little bit. Now we're talking about the package developers and how to accommodate these kind of comments and questions. Yeah, you don't have to use polite. You can use your own manners easily. So here's in polite, we have a function that is use this like function. It's a templating function. It provides template code for minimum wrapper over HTTR get, which you can reuse, modify as you please, and include in your package or into your code. Basically what it does, it sets meaningful user agent string, again, negotiates your burst.txt for your rate limits, performs memoization, and it only has dependencies on HTTR, robots.txt, and memoiz. So all you need to do is type polite, use manners, and it will pop up a script for you, which looks like this. So what's inside is basically a little function here with polite read HTML. So it's a wrapper around read HTML. There's memoization happening right there up front, wrapped around the function. And then within the function arguments, you see the default user agent, which is polite, and then options from HTTR user agent, which is now a standard for using in our world for user agents. And then there's this one internal function, check robots.txt, which does everything. It checks robots.txt permission, it does rate limitation, and if that function is returning okay, you can go ahead, then the scraping will be performed with user agents. That's all there is, plus a couple of server functions, and you can see the template code inside of your installation today because it's on CRAN, so you can peek into the templates and see what it's going to propose you. Feel free to modify the code to make your own wrapper. But usually the managers, data science managers, are impatient. They would say, well, that's all nice. I see a lot of code, but can I have my analysis? I cannot wait for this to for you to develop and tweak the code. So here comes a little helper that I want to propose. So let's say that you are preparing to scrape, and this is your code. So you are doing, let's say, scraping of the same cheese website. Everything is set up for read HTML, and you just realize, oh God, I need to do the polite scraping. So what do I do? So all you need to do is you need to add one line, which basically is an adverb wrapping over your read HTML function. And this polite read HTML is a new function that you can use, which does everything as polite principles require: introducing, asking for permissions, rate limitation, and caching. And it works on any function that has a URL argument, also on your function, on your customized function. So the chef is going to sit behind your hat and pull the hair a little bit, but it's going to manipulate your session so that it does all the polite web scraping. So the purpose of my package is to help users be nice. It promotes good, polite defaults, hopefully causing minimum disruption to the user workflow. If the user wants to do interactive, they can do bow and scrape. If they want to write their own, there's a template for them to get started. If not, then they can rely on the backend that the politely provides, and that helps them abide by the principles and do good on the web. So I also want to encourage all of you to establish web etiquette standards. Please adopt user agent string. Options HTTR user agent is now standard for almost all packages, with a few exceptions. So whatever is inside that options today, it will be used for user agent. Kind of be aware of it and use it in your packages. Blog and tell also show that you are using polite web scraping, and that will basically raise awareness in the community that it's important to abide by the principles of polite behavior on the web. and also make alternatives available. So whenever you are expecting that somebody will scrape your data, maybe you need to think about providing APIs, some sort of data downloads, databases, what have you, that would not make it necessary for users to scrape. The latest additions, this politely adverb is in development version. Feel free to install it from GitHub. Otherwise, current version is fully functional. Let me know if it pulls your hair too much, but hopefully it is helpful. I also have stickers. If you blog and tell about your use of polite, you'll get something in the mail. Thank you, and that was my talk.
Thank you, Dmytro. Very educational talk. I am the first person working to being polite using R and scraping data. That's for sure something we all need to learn. So we are ahead of our schedule, but I believe we can start our question and answer part of the session if Emanuela agrees with that. Emanuela, you're still with us? I mean, I see Regina now, and maybe even Kirill and Christoph and Joseph can join us for the question and answer part of the session. Okay, hi Christoph, I see you.
Hello.
We're still missing Joseph, but here he is. Oh, Joseph sort of disappeared. Okay, hi Joseph. Hi again.
Hi everyone.
So this is the question and answer part of the session. I'm not sure if I am the moderator for this part, but anyway, let's start. The very first question is for Kirill and Christoph, and it's from Einstein Sorensen, who asks, what kind of projects do you do for insurance?
So we basically have one major pricing project where we support property pricing, and yeah, so it goes along for like a long time, and it's mainly it uses like a lot of dplyr data transformations. So it's very much a dplyr application that makes a lot of use of dplyr and other tools from the tidyverse. And so these things have like helped a lot to simplify just the data structures that we see there. So yeah.
Okay. So I think that the next question is probably for Dmytro, and I've lost it, but I do remember the question. What happened to you? Actually, this question was from Kirill. So maybe Kirill, you can ask Dmytro directly your question, and it basically was, what happens if you are disconnected while you are? You said do not ask twice, but sometimes you are kind of forced to ask twice or more than twice because of this connection. But Kirill, maybe you want to elaborate on this question, because this was yours, although you disappeared.
So I think I heard you saying, Dmytro,
Okay.
never ask twice. But sometimes there's a misunderstanding or a cut in communication. So how do you actually go about asking the second time if you have successfully scraped the majority of the data but need to retrieve the rest? So is there
Right.
is the tooling that polite?
So all I'm doing is basically doing interfacing of memoirs. The memoirs package allows you to do caching on disk and on like Amazon buckets on Dropbox, on whatever. There's a tons of interfaces for different ways of caching the results. So any of that can be passed as an argument to Polite, and there you have it. Basically, the idea is that after every response, you need to cache the result in case you need to ask about it again. And of course, if the session is interrupted and you're caching everything to memory and your session has crashed, as my session, for example, for this talk, then you'll have to re-query because all the memory will be gone. But hopefully you're using this caching, and therefore it will be retained after you resume your session. So that's what I'm relying on. I'm just re-exposing that argument from memoirs.
Dmytro, continuing on this, Einstein is asking, what happens if you are not being polite? What consequences of not being polite?
Bad conscience.
Legal or just informal consequences?
No, just bad conscience. I think there's no repercussions for most cases. You can get in trouble, like somebody got sued by LinkedIn for scraping their profiles, but that's pretty major offense, and they actually build a commercial product on top of it. No, I think we can do better as a community. We can set standards for polite behavior on the web. I don't think that there are any repercussions other than, bad conscience and maybe lack of sleep. But other than that, no, I just want to do it for the sake of being a good citizen.
Regina also had a comment about
one repercussion. Sorry, one repercussion maybe that you get banned, because I did get banned even on Bob Rudis's website for scraping his blog post too fast. So yes, so that can just slow you down and put you off with your deliveries for some point for some time. You can get banned for several days or weeks or maybe forever. So that's my only concern. Go ahead.
So Regina, what is your experience? I mean, I saw that you had a comment on Dmytro talks, but being a social data scientist, you probably meet this type of problem of being polite and.
Sorry. So yeah, of course, we try to work with organizations who actually already have their own kind of data. So for us, one of the main challenges is to find out what kind of data those organizations have and to get it into a tidy format. But we don't do that much web scraping because that's not really the scope of most small social organizations. But I'm absolutely on his side on, being polite when you do web scraping, because from the developer side, it can really be kind of stressful if, it's already crashing.
Okay. Joseph, do you have what is your mind about this problem of being, since apparently...
Of scraping or
well, being polite with R when scraping, of course.
Well, I think we ought to be polite all the time.
Right.
I don't know that, for the majority of little cases, I don't know that it really matters when people won't notice. But certainly if you're going to make a burden, it seems to be the right thing to do.
Yeah. Okay. So Regina, would you elaborate a little bit more about some of your projects? I mean, we asked already Christoph to say something about their project on insurance, but can you tell us more about some of the local projects you worked through?
Yeah, of course. So actually, one of the first local projects was with a really small sports community near Mannheim, where they try to find out which courses are getting lots of members and how different people who support those courses have time constraints. So we're trying to find out how they can better structure their work. And it was kind of a survey project at first. But then in the Rhine-Main sector, so near Frankfurt, we also did a project with the R Consortium, which is social organization that provides different shops for products from like the third sector, and so we help them through consulting on how they can better structure their shops and their marketing in the region of Frankfurt. So it's pretty diverse, always depending on the kind of organization.
Related with this, Christina is asking you if it's possible to contribute to the community projects, although you are as an individual, as a single consultant, although you are maybe living far away from Germany or from the place where you are developing the project. So what do people can do in order to contribute to your activities? Shall they simply contact you, or is there a sort of a formal way to join, or what?
So the easiest way would be to join our mailing list on the website. You can find it at CorrelAidX. And apart from the local chapters, we still exist as like a remote organization across Germany and Europe. And we still have our projects that are completely remote. So if you live somewhere else, that's no problem at all, because most of the projects are just based on telephone conferences and Slack channels still. So yeah, absolutely. Just join the mailing list, and then you will get our projects and can apply for it if you want.
I see that the mailing list has been, the link to the mailing list has been already posted on our chat. Now, here is a question for Joseph and Christoph and Kirill. In the light of Dmytro's talk, how do you, what are your normative principles, or what are the principles that you follow when you're choosing projects to work with, or support, or get, to work with? So I presume that this sort of opens up the question of politeness into a much more philosophical setting. Who wants to start?
I'll start.
Go ahead.
So for our consortium projects, we have just a few principles. One, the projects need to be technically feasible, and that we need to have some confidence in the team, so that when a proposal is written, it has to be written in a way that makes good business sense, that we think it can be done with the funding requested. But over on top of that, we sort things out mainly by how we think it will serve the community. We choose based on what's the largest, the projects that get the highest priority are those that we think will make the biggest impact in the community. Not niche projects, but something that will serve the majority of users. So that's basically what we do.
Yeah, Kirill and Christoph, this question was for you too.
We're in a very lucky position where there seems to be demand for our help, so that we and at the same time we were never in a situation where we had to reject projects based on ethical concerns. So I'm not sure how I would feel about working with military projects. I might turn them down, for example. This just hasn't come up. We have to prioritize. So demand is on par or slightly exceeds what we can actually offer. So that's we'll see how things will be in the future. We will remain active open source contributors. That's what we do.
Okay.
That's what we enjoy. That's what we like.
Now, going back to Dmytro, there are two technical questions here. First of all, apply to FTP servers, or is a curl handle sufficient?
Yeah, so there was a question. I saw the question. It
you saw
refers
them.
to.
Okay, you saw them on yeah, there are two.
Right. So I think it will handle it well. I didn't try it yet with R curl. It's a question more about R curl than about anything else. It's a relatively old and not maintained package, but it should work fine. There's no limitation on the protocol. What happens is that your function is rate limited, and the user agent string will still be provided to the server. I think it should work fine, but let me know. Please file issues if it doesn't, and we'll investigate it. I appreciate it a lot if people give it a try and report issues.
Now, the second question was if apply etiquette function can be used to morph a script into the politer version by replacing the nesticles. You probably read the question from
right. Well, Federico, thank you for the question, but I don't think that it's too ambitious job, and there are too many spaghetti code written, kind of unparsable, hairballs of code. So no, I would presume that people use something relatively lightweight from scratch to write a little wrapper over the function that they want to use, and therefore use manners should be sufficient, or this politely adverb. So no, I don't expect to parse the code.
Okay. So now I have a question, maybe an unpolite question. I don't know. for Joseph. Now, I use R all the time with my students for teaching, and I guess that one of the strengths of using R, besides being easy for me at least, but it's the community that is around R. Now, my students, I'm working in a technical university, so most of the students are engineers. Now they're telling me, oh yes, R is fine, but there is also Python, and the community for Python is also growing. So, Joseph, what is your viewpoint on this issue? How the two communities are interacting in the world, and how they can sort of put together their efforts in order to build up an even greater community of data scientists?
Well, first off, most of the times the communities are talking past each other, so it's pretty funny because they think that they understand what they're each talking about, and many times there aren't. I have a little story. I talked to a data scientist from Facebook and asked him if he used R for any of his statistical routines. And he said, oh, no, I use Python. And I said, oh, okay, scikit-learn, pandas. And he said, no, I don't use any of that. I use TensorFlow. So for a computer scientist, if they can get to something with a DLL, they think it's in Python. I mean, that's not the way we think in R. But the cooperation comes for things like the COVID data hub that you'll be talking, Emmanuel will be talking about at the conference. I mean, he wrote the code for many communities. There's a way to access the data in Python and R and Scala. And I think big projects like that see the code, the coding is not the issue, and people just work where they're comfortable.
Okay. So you think we will overcome this sort of divide by the
yes, and once the computer scientists need to learn some statistics, I mean, it's all over. They'll just work in R.
Good. What are the opinions of the other panelists? Maybe Kirill, Christoph, and Regina and Dmytro have different opinions. Maybe they have different experiences of this topic. Would you like to intervene?
So for the CorrelAid community, we pretty much started out as a solely R-based community, because that's what we're mostly drawn to as social scientists or statisticians. But we're slowly dipping into Python, I guess, with more and more people getting in. And I don't think it's a divide at all, to be honest, because those people are in those communities are pretty like-minded, and for some time things R works better, for other Python. So I don't really mind
switching from one platform to the other. Okay. Maybe you raised.
I think that
physically.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, thank you. I want to say that Python doesn't. I mean, we have not yet seen the revival of Python that happened to the R community when we switched focus to the user experience. I think our studio, and I want to praise these guys and also the contributors to open source as Kirill and others, have provided a foundation for a completely different user experience. And the things that Pandas users have to put up with is nothing compared to what R has done. I mean, we're moved past that. Many inconveniences, redundant functions, and obscure kind of arguments are gone from the code, basically, in most instances. So I think the shift to the user experience will also change what Python is. And the Python, the core Python, the Pandas-less, the NumPy-less Python, is not really a data science language. So it just happened to be written in Python. And maybe there will be a new language that will come later on. Hopefully Julia, but maybe something else.
Yeah, the problem is, in my experience at least, when working as a consultant for the university, but as a consultant with external companies, is that sometimes they ask you code in Python because they have Python or whatever. So big companies, actually, big oil and gas companies, for instance, in Italy. So what we do usually is we write everything from scratch, either in R or in C++, and then eventually at the end we come to Python. What is your experience as a consultant, Kirill and Christoph? Did you had problems like this? Just people asking you to have code in Python and not in R, or you didn't?
No, so we really, I think, probably have quite a strong focus on R. I mean, there are few people in our team who have like some knowledge of Python and also did some work in Python, but it's just usually not what we are getting hired for.
Okay. So I have to agree with Regina that my students, not myself, but my students are quite proficient in both languages, and they switch from one to the other with no difficulties. So it's not really a big issue for them, but it was maybe for me. Okay.
But also a big shout out to the R Consortium, because the R community, one of the big points about that is that there's such a great community behind it. So with the Tidy Tuesday challenges and all those different communities like the R Ladies, there's just so much out there that we can build on and that we can work together with.
No, I absolutely
like
agree.
one of the
the community, the R community is the real strength that is behind R, apart from being a very nice object-oriented language. And R Studio also, it's a big tool, I have to admit. We use it all the time, even for teaching. People using MATLAB in our courses easily switch to R by using R Studio, even because the format is very similar, and so it's easier to go from one language into the other. As I said, my graduate students, but also my undergraduate students, do not have really big troubles using one or the other. But for all the statistics courses at the Polytechnical, we use R and R Studio, but now people are asking also for Python. That's why I raised the question. I thought that this was the right environment to talk about this, since there were no other. Okay, there is a question for Joseph. Do you think that R will someday venture into hardware control, such as Arduino and Nucleo boards soon?
No, that's beyond me. I haven't, I talked to a lot of people, but I don't have an inkling of that.
Okay. Okay. So I think that we should probably stop this. of the session because in 5 minutes there will be a plenary talk, and so maybe we have time to drink a glass of water before joining the plenary talk. Okay. So let me thank all the speakers.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Did a good job, great job. I think that many people will interact with you, asking later on questions about what you are doing and what you are proposing. So thank you very much for being in this session. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye
Bye-bye.
some way someday. Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.